Today's daf is daf lamed ches. We are going to begin daf lamed zayin amud beis. We started a new perek shor shenogach daled vehei, and we are holding at the new mishnah on daf lamed zayin amud beis. Again, today's daf is daf lamed ches. Now the mishnah is going to continue dealing with things, concepts which are yetzim and aklal. The mishnah is going to deal with two halachas, which limit. We had this already in daf tes amud beis. Limit the Tashlumin nizokim only to matters, only to nechasim which do not have the concept of me'ilah. In other words, only when nichse hedyet damages nichse hedyet, and also it has to be nechasim of yidin, nechasim which are for goyim. Then api halacha you're not chayiv. Okay. If you're using the art scroll, we start now. It's in the second volume. It's start 2. Okay, Zog the Hedek Mishnah, Shur Shal Yisrael. If you have a Yid, a Shur, an ox that belongs to a Yid, Shenogach Shur Shal Hekdesh. It damaged a Shur of Hekdesh. Now, when we say Hekdesh, it means either a ox which belongs to Bava Kamah, which belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, or a Shur that a person was Makdish, the goof of the Shur, to the Beis HaMikdash. It's either Shaykh to Bava Kamah or Kochi Aguf. Now, the Mefarshim say hekdesh of, let's say, poor people or tzorchei tzibur achedim. That's not considered what we're talking about here. We're talking about a shei which is shaykh to Bava Kamah. So what happened over here? Shur Shal Yisrael. You have an ox of a yid, shenogach shur shal hekdesh, that gored a ox that belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, and v'shal hekdesh shenogach l'shur shal hedyet. Or let's say an ox of a hekdesh gored a Yiddish ox, which is a hedyet. So halacha in both cases is whether Shor Shal Yisrael damaged hekdesh or hekdesh damages Shor Shal Yisrael. Halacha is pater from pater. He's pater from paying for the damage. Why? Because where do we learn that a person is chayiv when a person's ox damages? So the pasuk says v'chiyigav shor es ish le'eyu shor le'eyu. The Torah says that when the ox gores, shur re'eyu, it has to be the shur of your fellow, which is v'lo shur hekdesh, not shur of a hekdesh. Re'eyu means your friend. What's a friend? A hedyet. Hekdesh is not re'eyu, and the Torah says v'chigav is shur re'eyu. It has to be dafka re'eyu and not shur hekdesh. And therefore, when you damage hekdesh, or hekdesh, your shur, or hekdesh damages your shur, that doesn't fall under the category of re'eyu. Next halacha, the Mishnah says shur shur yisol shenogach l'shur. So that's when a shur of hedyet damages hekdesh and vice versa. Now, what happens if shur shur yisol shenogach l'shur shuknani? What happens if a Yiddish ox, the ox that belonged to a Yiddish owner, damaged a goyish ox? So halacha is pater, the Yid is pater. Now, v'shel knani shenogach l'shur shel Yisrael. But if a goyish ox damaged a yid, so here's the din. Bein tam, doesn't matter whether this animal was a tam. In other words, it didn't gore. It's the first 3 times. Bein muid, whether it's a shen muid, that doesn't matter. Shalim nezik shalim. The goy has to pay a nezik shalim, and the Gemara in Lamed Ches is going to explain why is that. So we have 2 dinim, either a sher hekdesh, vice versa, or a shor shel Yisrael that damages a knani, he's going to be pater. A goy damages a yid is going to be chayiv, even if a shor tam is going to be nezek shalim. Okay, Zog the Gemara now is going to comment on the first halacha. Masnisa snisin the loik Reb Shimon ben Menashe. The halacha is, our Mishnah is not like the opinion of Reb Shimon ben Menashe. Why not? Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, shor shel hedyet shenegach shor shel hekdesh. The Brisa says an ox of a hedyet would damage a shor shel hekdesh, or v'shel hekdesh shenegach shor shel hedyet. The opposite of shor hekdesh damage a shor shel hedyet. The halacha is pater. The baal ashur is pater from paying. Why? Like our Mishnah said, shenemar shor de'eyu v'lo shor shel hekdesh. It has to be a shor de'eyu, not shor shel hekdesh. Reb Shimon ben Menashe argues and says like this: shor shel hekdesh shenegach shor shel hedyet. If a shor hekdesh damaged a shor hedyet, then he's going to be pater. But v'shel hekdesh shenogach shor shel hedyet hekdesh. But a shor hedyet, the damage of shor hekdesh, he's going to argue with the Mishnah. Bein tam ben muad. It doesn't matter whether it's a shor which is a tam or a mud, mishalim nezek shalim, he has to pay a nezek shalim if the animal damaged a shir shel hektish. So what comes out that Shimon ben Manasseh is not like the Tana Kama of our Mishnah, because our Mishnah said it doesn't matter which one it's what, it's not shir to eyu. So even if a shir hektish damages a shir hektish, he doesn't have to pay a penny. And what did Shimon ben Manasseh say? Shimon ben Manasseh said that he has to pay nezek shalim if a shir hektish damages a shir hektish. So the Gemara explains now, fine, so that's a statement, and the Gemara doesn't argue with that. So now the Gemara says this, Amri, they said, my kasavar Reb Shimon. We're trying to understand, what does Reb Shimon hold? What's the reason why he holds that if hektish damages shir hektish damages shir hedyet, that he's going to be pater. But a shir hedyet, the damage of shir hektish, that is going to be chayiv. Why? What's the svara? So he said this, if he holds that since the Torah says re'eyu by damages, re'eyu dafke, so since when hektish damages hedyet, that's not under re'eyu. Re'eyu means hedyet damages hedyet. Now when hektish damages hedyet, now when hektish damages hedyet. So that's what he says. So even if a shur, which is a hedyet, that gored a shur shel hektish, Vaita should be pater. Why? Because it's not an eyu. It has to work both ways. If shur hektish is pater shur mitzat and the shur hedyet because of the eyu, so it has to work the same way that a shur hedyet, the damages of shur hektish, also should be pater because the Torah says the eyu. Now, you're going to say, no. When it says that eyu, doesn't mean lav dafke. So then, I feel a hektish nami kinolach the hedyet lechayiv. So when a shur hektish damages a shur hedyet, it should right to be chayiv because the eyu is lav dafke. So make up your mind. So Gemara says this. If you're going to say, you know how you're going to answer Shimon ben Manasseh? Lo kasavar ben Shimon ben Manasseh holds the eyu dafke. And when it says the eyu, means the eyu. Now, and therefore, when hektish damages hedyet, it's pater. Umiyu, the hedyet kinogach, the hektish hainu time of the mechayev. The reason why when a hedyet gores a hektish, the reason why it's chayev is as follows: Mishum the kamai silam a kavachemer the hedyet, because I can learn a kavachemer from a hedyet. Uma hedyet, if by a regular shur hedyet, doesn't belong to any, it's a regular simple ox. Shenogach shel hedyet, that this ox gored another ox, so chayev. What does the Torah say? Is chayev. So kinogach the hektish, when a shur hedyet damages hektish, which shur hektish is a lot more holier, like kol shekin the mechayev, doesn't it make sense on pisvada that a person should be chayev if a shur hedyet damages a shur hedyet? He's chayev, so for sure a shur hedyet that damages a shur hektish for sure should be chayev to pay. Now you can't say that. Why not? Because if you remember, we had a din before, daye lovay mina din liyes kinidin, which means that wherever you're learning out from has to be, you can't learn out from the father to the son more than the father. Which means, so if Reb Shimon is learning it out from a kavachemer, from hedyet, so ma'ala halan, if by a shur hedyet, which damages, that's your whole kavachemer. So a shur hedyet, which damages another shur hedyet, the halacha is, if it's a shur tam, then it's chatzi nezek, so it's a chatzi nezek. So hachanami here also, when a shur hedyet damages a shur hektish, the din should be chatzi nezek. And what did Reb Shimon ben Manasseh say? That even a tam that damages a shur hektish, he has to pay a nezek shalim. So mimadoshach. If you're going to say, if it's to the eus lav dafke, so it should work both. And if you're going to say, no, I have a kavachemer. If a shur hedyet that damages a shur hedyet is chayiv, so for sure a shur hedyet that damages a hektish, for sure should be chayiv. Now, fine, it's a good kavachemer, but you have another problem. A dayi lovim min din liyes kinidin. So if where you're learning out the kavachemer from is from the case of shur hedyet, so it can't be stricter than shur hedyet. Shur hedyet is chatzi nezek. There should invite to be a chatzi nezek. Yet, what's the din? The din is that it's a nezek shalim. Fine. Elamar Rish Lakish. So Rish Lakish says like this: Hakol hoya bechlal nezek shalim. You should know that be'emes everything is a nezek shalim. A shur hedyet which damages hektish really is chayev and nezek shalim. Why? Because when did the Torah make a difference between tam and mu'ed? Is by re'eyu. But when there's no category of re'eyu, like for example shur hektish, there's no din of difference between tam and mu'ed. Every single time it's a nezek shalim. So therefore, it comes out that al pi din, a hedyot, which damages hektish, al pi din, is an ezek shalom, because there's no category of re'eu. Now, therefore, kisheparat l'cha kos of re'eu, when the Torah says the din of re'eu, where gabe tam, by asher tam, so there the Torah is telling me that re'eu, by re'eu, who the tam misham chatzin ezek. The Torah says when it's going to be a tam by re'eu, then he has to be a chatzin ezek. Mechlal, which is mashma, the hektish, when it damages, when the hedyot damages hektish, so there's no re'eu over there. So then bein tam bein mud misham nezek shalom. So the Rosh Hashanah is very push to answer. He says that it's always an ezek shalom. The Torah says by re'eu, then there's a difference. But if it's not re'eu, it's an ezek shalom. So the Gemara says. Okay, so now the Gemara says, the imkain, if so, if one whose ox gores if a hedyot now it's now. So if re'eu comes to tell me that to be paid to the hedyot from paying on this case hektish, right? So what was the question? Why is it that when hedyot damages hektish, it's chayiv, and when hektish damages hedyot, it's potter? Why? So he says the imkain, if re'eu is telling me that it's potter even for niske hektish, so nichtiv kra lahai, let the Torah write re'eu gabi muad. Let the Torah write re'eu by a muad. In other words, and we would say that if a shur, that doesn't matter when the shur mazik was a tam or was a muad, it's potter, because the Torah says re'eu by a tam. So the Torah doesn't have to say this. In other words, like this. One could then learn that the owner is pater in the case of a tam as well, as the chiyuv with regards to tam, as we know, is less severe than the muad. So when you say the ptur specifically by a tam, which mashma that the ptur is only concerning the leniency of that pasuk, that if the ox gores, that if the gored ox belonged to another person, the owner of the tam is chayav to pay only half the damage. So the fact that the Torah by hedyot, the fact that the Torah mentions the dafka there, it's telling me dafka there, but not if a hektish gores a hedyot. What is this? Okay, so now the Mishnah said like this: Shur Yisrael shenogach shur shel Knani. The second din we had a shur of a yid that gored a shur of a Knani. The halach is potter. However, a shade of a Knani damage a share of a yid, doesn't matter whether it's a tam or a muad, the guy is going to be chayiv. So Amri like this. They said like this. They said like this. However you look at it, it's going to be a problem. Because re'eu dafke, if when the Torah says a dafke re'eu, so then the Kanani kinogach di Yisrael, not the potter. So then a shade of a Kanani that gored a shade of Yisrael, also the Kanani should be potter, because a guy is not re'eu. Now v'id re'eu lav dafke. And if you're going to say that re'eu is lav dafke, so I feel the Yisrael kinogach the Kanani nechayiv. So even when a yid's ox scores a goyish ox, the yid should be chayiv. So mimanoshach, make up your mind. If it's re'eu, it has to work both ways. And if re'eu means dafke, so then why is a yid that damages a guy? Why is he potter? So Amar Rabba says like this. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Amad vayimeded eretz ro vayater goyim. The pasuk says, the pasuk in Habakkuk, it says that he stood and shook the earth, he beheld and made the nation tremble. This is Hashem. In that time was judging the world. So what does the pasuk say? The pasuk is saying is that he stood and shook the earth, and he made the nations tremble. Ra sheva mitzvah shekibla aleim bnei Neach, which means Hashem saw the 7 mitzvahs that the descendants of Neach accepted, and kivish leikimu. Once the Canaanim were not mekayim the 7 mitzvahs bnei Neach, amad v'hitim emenim sheisol. So what did he do? He arose and he permitted their money to the Jewish people, so that in certain cases Yidden are not chayav the damage that they caused to goyim. Okay, so here's a very, very big. It's a lot to talk about this.
The guy defensively.
Yeah.
Always like quoted these kinds of Gemara saying that they by anti-Semitism. Yeah, mamish, but they don't read the second part of the story. That it's because they screwed it up for themselves.
Now, the Mefarshim explained it's not the kavanah that a yid has the right to go and start stealing the goyish money. Rather, if something happened, then he's going to be potter.
You're not allowed to steal from
No, of course not. So, if you take this out of context.
Yeah, of course.
you know,
Oh, in the big time. Pay for that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why what? Okay. So that's what Rabbi says. Rabbi says, "Omad vayimedid." The pasuk says, "Omad vayimedid haaretz." He went and he was shafed the world. The Rav vayater goyim, and he basically he let the goyim go. Why? Because once he saw that they accepted the Sheva Mitzvah Shminei, but they didn't keep it, so he basically said, "Now the money belongs to the Yidden." Okay. Now. The Gemara explains that a Knani share that damages a Yiddish car. We should be pater it. Why? Because it says Re'eu. And a Yid and Knana Menar Re'eu. But because the Yidden, the Goyim, were not Mekayim Shem Mitzvah Neach, Hashem gave them the Knas, and they basically have to pay for the Nezek. Okay, now Rabbi Yochanan brings another source to the Knas. Rabbi Yochanan says, the source for this is, the pasuk says, Eifiyah Mahar Paroin. Hashem says the full pasuk, as we read in Zeisa Bracha, that Hashem appeared to the Bnei Yisrael Har Sinai after the Ummah Sa'ilam refused to accept the Torah. So what do we see? That the Goyim were given a Knas, the fact that they refused the dinim of Torah. So what does that mean? He appeared to them on Har Parin, which means which means from the time that Hashem came to Parin, when giving the Torah, the money of the Goyin appeared, in other words, it was revealed and granted to the Yidden. So that's why even if a Goy is not Re'eu, nevertheless, if their ox scores the Goyish ox scores the Yid, he has to pay for it. Tanya Namachi, we learned that as well in the Brayz of Shirshi, so Shanagach Shir, Shel Kanani, if a Yiddish ox scored a Goyish ox, he's potter. Shir Shel Kanani Shanagach Shir Yisrael, halacha is Bein Tam, Bein Mud, Mishalim, Nezek Shalom, Shenemar, like it says, Omar, Vayimedid Aretz, Rav Vayater Goyim, V'oimer, and then he puts it together, this Brayz, Hoifia Mahar Paran. Fred the Gemara, Mai V'oimer. What is the reason the Brayz adds in another pasuk? Why is the first pasuk not good enough? So he says, V'chi Teimo. And if you're going to say, Hi, Omad v'yamadid Aretz, and if you're going to say that the pasuk, he stood and shook the earth, the Chid Rav Masna, Uchid Rav Yosef is like for Rav Masna and Rav Yosef, Tashma, Hifiyah Mahar Par. Now, if you're going to say that this pasuk, you needed to tell me the drashas of Rav Masna and Rav Yosef, which are going to be brought down, Tashma, Hifiyah Mahar Parin. In other words, Parain, once the Eibishter came to Ifiyah, once he came to Parain, he gave the Goyim a Knas for not accepting the Torah. Now, Freddy Gemara, my the Rav Masna. What is this drush? What is Rav Masna talking about? Rav Masna, Omar vayimedid the Aretz Ro Chuli. He says that he stood and he shook the earth. Now, Maro, what do you see? He saw that the 7 mitzvahs, that they accepted the 7 mitzvahs, but they didn't fulfill it. He arose and he exiled them from their land on account of their Avedas. And how do you know that Vayater means a term of exile? So he says like this. It says over here, Vayater Goyim. It says, and he made the nations tremble. And it says over there, another pasuk, Lenater Behen ala Oretz. Lenater upon the earth. So, what does the Targum say? Lekapotza b'hein al-ara, to leap upon the earth. So it means uprooting from one place to the other. Now, my Rabbi Yosef. What is Rabbi Yosef? Rabbi Yosef Amad v'yimedid aretz ro chuli ma ro. So what does it mean? Ro shav mitzvah shekiba aleim neinech v'leikim amad v'yitir lahem. Now, which means that he saw the 7 mitzvahs, that they accepted it, but they did not fulfill it, so he arose and permitted their isser to them. So the Gemara asks, did they thereby profit in that their isser became permitted to them? So we find that they were rewarded. It's not to say that for them to transgress the mitzvahs is no longer a sin. Rather, it's to say that even if they fulfill them, They do not receive reward of fulfilling them. Why don't they receive reward for fulfilling these mitzvahs? Where do we know that even a goy who engages in Torah is considered like a kohen gadol? That's what the pasuk says. Pasuk says, which if a person does, he shall live by them. It doesn't say anything about kohen Yisraelim and Levim. It says Adam. How do you can kohen gadol? Even if a guy learns Torah, it's considered like a kohen gadol. So the Chacham said in response, Goyim do not receive the reward as does one who is commanded to perform the mitzvah and performs it. As we had this in Kedushin, famous sugi, mitzvah. Rather, it's like one who does not command to perform a mitzvah and performs it anyway. As Rav Chanina says, a person who is commanded and performs a mitzvah is greater than one who is not commanded and performs the mitzvah. Okay, we learned in our Brayso following the story as a and the Roman kingdom once sent 2 military officials to the Chachmei Yisrael and ordered them to teach, and ordered them in the name of the king, and said, Lamduni tedaschem, teach us your Torah. So they read the Torah and repeated it again, reading it a third time. At the time that they left, they said, we have examined your entire Torah and it's true. Except for this halacha, which says that if a Yiddish ox gores, a Goyish ox is potter, and shall Goyish nagach shesh Yisrael, bein tam, bein muad mishlam nezer shalom. In other words, they couldn't handle that din. Why? Because they said, the officials, they said the halacha, if you're saying re'eu, I feel the Goy kinagach Yisrael, I potter the same svara. If it's re'eu, so even a Goy that gores a Yid should also be potter. Now, they said, but we will not inform the matter to the kingdom, because we acknowledge that the entire Torah is true, but we will not reveal this halacha. Why? Because we're afraid that it's going to be displeased by the kingdom. Yeah. Now, Shmuel bar Yehuda Shchiva le Barta. Gemara says that the daughter of Shmuel bar Yehuda died. The Chacham said to Ula, arise, let us go console him. Amarle, so Ula said to them, "My islach gabe nechemta the bavloi to gedufahui." What business do I have with the consolation of people from Babylonia, which are heresy? The Omri my efshlemevad. Because as they say, while they're consoling mourners, what can be done? This seems to suggest that if it were possible to do something, acting against the Eibishter's decree, they would do so. Therefore, Ula declined to accompany the Chacham of Bava. Okay. Now, Ula therefore went to consult Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda by himself. Amalei, the pasuk says, Hashem said to me, do not be do not like to be on hate with Moav. Don't contend them with battle. So what entered Moshe's mind? That Hashem had to warn her, don't take action against Moav. Did enter in Moshe's mind to wage war against Moav without the Eibishter's reshus? Moshe made a kavachim. Omar, he said like this. Moshe said, if with regards to the people of Midyanim, who came only to help the Moavim, harm the Jewish people, the Torah says, harass the Midyanim and hit them. So he said, then Moavim Asmim, the Moavim himself, who they started this whole war, like Kol Shekin, doesn't it make sense to go and fight them? So like the Eibishter says, so he says to Moshe, that which has entered your mind has not entered in my mind. Why? Because I have two virtues of girls that I want to bring out from them. Who is that? Rus HaMayavi v'Nama HaAminis. I want to be born Rus HaMayavi and Nama HaAminis, which was David and Shlomo's wives, from whom the continuation of this dynasty will emerge. For the sake of these women, the Mayavi and Aminis must not be destroyed. Ula continue. Balei dvarim kal v'chemer, the ched is a kal v'chemer. Oma b'shvil shtei prides teves chasas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Al shtei umiskes v'lei yichtivin. If for these two women, the Eibishter had pity on these large nations and did not destroy them, Bita Shadebi. So then, the daughter of Rabbi, then if the daughter of my teacher, not Rabbi, the daughter of my teacher, Rabbi, Bita Sharabi, the daughter of my teacher, Shmuel Bar Yehuda, was, if the daughter of my teacher, Shmuel Bar Yehuda, was righteous and she had the potential for something good to emerge from her, all the more so, it would be clear that she would have lived. Okay, so now the Gemara says this. Having mentioned,
What was the story of that? What was the story from the daughter?
I don't know. Look. I didn't have time to look it up. Okay, we'll look it after. Okay. He says the Eibishter does not deprive any creature of its reward. He rewards every person for his good deeds and provides reward even for using pleasant speech. With regards to the descendants of the elder of the two daughters of Lot, who said that the name of her son, whom she conceived with her father, would be Mayav. So what does it say? Hashem said to Moshe, do not harass them, do not fight them. In other words, what a full-fledged battle was not authorized by the Jewish people, but the Jewish people could impose forced labor of them. Now, Tzira the Kamra Ben Ami, the younger daughter who had relations with her father, Torah says the younger daughter who said her Ben Ami, the son, her son's name would be Ben Ami, meaning the son of my nation. And when you come near against the children of Amin, do not harass them, do not contend with them. In other words, klal, do not contend with them at all. You're not even allowed to impose forced labor upon these people. This additional Isra was a reward for her being very able with the name, calling it Ben Ami. He says a person should always hasten to perform a mitzvah. He says, as due to the one night by which the elder daughter of Lot preceded the younger daughter with the intention of performing a mitzvah by bringing children of the world, she preceded her by 4 generations, as in having her descendants enter into the Jewish people. Oived Yishai v'David Shlema, which was Oived Yishai David Shlema v'Lutzida ad Rechavim. The younger one did not join the Jewish people until Rechavim. The Ksiv, like it says, V'Shem Imei Nama Ha'amenis, and his mother's name was Nama V'Amenis. Okay. If a Yiddish ox scored a Goyish ox, potter, it's potter. And Mishal Kuti Shanagach Sher Yisrael, halacha is Tam Mishal Chazinezek, and Mud Mishal Nezek Shom. And Meir says, Sher Yisrael Shanagach Sher Yisrael Kuti potter. And Mishal Kuti Shanagach Sher Yisrael, Ben Tam Ben Mud Mishal Nezek Shom. Meir said a Sher of a Goy, a Yid that gores a Goy, it's potter of a Kuti, Shanagach Sher Yisrael, Ben Tam Ben Mud Mishal Nezek Shom. Friday Gemara, the name of the Sabbath of the Meir Kutim are Geda Aroyasin. Is this to say that our Meir holds that the Kutim are Gede Aroyasin, which in other words, this machlek is if the Kutim are Gede Emes or Gede Aroyas, which means that they converted due to the fear of the lion. In other words, the original conversion of the Kutim was due to duress and it was meaningless. And therefore he assigns to them the same status as Goyim with regards to the liability of damage, right? He said, what's the Lashon? He said, Sher Shishol Shenagach Sher Shel Kuti Potter Shel Kuti Shenagach L'chedi holds that Kutim are Gede Aroyashin. So he asks him, what do you mean? I'm going to ask you a contradiction from the Mishnah Nida. The Mishnah says, Kol Aksam Amboim Mei Rekom, all bloodstains, which is a kesem, that come from the city of Rekem, are pure, since most of the residents are Goyim. And kesim, ksamim of goyim are not tummy. So therefore the Tehillim. Yehuda metami, Yehuda holds no, ksamim of the people are tummy, because they are converts or mistaken. In other words, they converted and they do not observe the mitzvahs because they have forgotten Yiddishkeit. He holds, since they are halachically Jewish, their blood is tummy. Now, mibein hagoyim, bloodstains clothes that come amongst the goyim, Toidim are considered pure. Ben Yisrael, ben Akutim, with regards to ksomim that come from amongst Yidden and amongst Kusim, Remeir metame, v'chacham metarin. Remeir holds his tummy and the chacham holds his tar. Why should the next Yisrael kismeim? Because Yidden and Kutim are not suspected of not being careful about their ksomim. So what do you see from here clearly? Alma kasav Remeir Kutim gedem emesei. Achir you hold that Remeir holds that gedem are true converts. Otherwise, the halacha concerning them would be that they are like goyim, whose ksomim are tar. So why does Remeir hold regards over here that if they get a emesaim, so l'chera when a yid damages a kutim, it should be chayiv. Or I should say even furthermore, that when a goy damages a yid, why are you saying that he has to pay the full thing like a nezek shalom? He's a full-fledged yid. Rambas really kutim are geda reis, and therefore considered Jews. However, a mayor gave them gele emesin. Emes they are be'emesin, but a mayor imposed a knas fine on them, giving them a status of a goyim shel yitamu b'hem, that they would not assimilate with them. Okay. Moshe Reb Zera raised the question to the answer from the Mishnah. If you remember, Ksub is the third perek, and these are the cases of young women from whom there is a knas. In other words, if somebody rapes them, they have to pay the father. Which are abal mamzeres, somebody who has relations with the mamzeres or on a sin malakutis. Now, if it enters in your mind that a mayor imposed a knas to them to render them like goyim, so Chanami Niknes led him to find a female kuti who is raped by making her ineligible to receive the fine for rape, so that people will not consider them regular yidden and will not assimilate. In other words, if you're worried about assimilation, so don't give the knas to the kutis either. So Rabbi Abai says, so the mayor holds that the reason the Chacham did not make this fine in this case is that the sinner, the rapist, should not be rewarded. But if that's the reason, let him give the fine to the poor person instead of giving it to the kutim to prevent assimilation. This is not done because it's money that has no claims. In other words, since one will not be chayiv to give it to a specific person, the rapist could evade payment by responding to any claim that he wants to give, I want to give it to a different poor person. So therefore the Chacham says, they upheld this halacha, and the fine is given to the kuti, so that the sinner shouldn't be a chaytin nisker. Okay, so tomorrow, we'll stop here. Tomorrow, because I'm going to come tomorrow morning, I'm going to give the chassidus.